Hello friends, welcome to Cinema Recap here. Today I explain 2015 sci-fi and thriller movie, The Martian. So let's begin the movie.
At the beginning of the movie, we first see Mars and some of the scientists on it who want something to grow on the soil and are experimenting there and taking samples. Then they get a message informing them that a storm is coming. Hearing the news of the storm, everyone got scared because storm was so dangerous and started running towards their spaceship. They all arrive in the spaceship. But unfortunately, one of these scientists, who is a botanist, lost in a storm. His name is Mark. They leave him behind. All the scientists in the spaceship try to contact Mark, but they can't find him, so they think that Mark is dead. Then they leave Mars. After his departure, we see that Mark was also alive and had a root in his stomach that prevented him from reaching the spaceship. Mark walks in agony towards his chamber, which his companions had set up there for their accommodation. And he goes there and pulls it out, but he's also very worried about how he'll get in touch with the rest of the scientists. No spaceship here, so he'll be stuck on Mars all his life, and the storm worried him. He knew that the next project would take 4 long years, so the 4-year period was too long, and the food he had for 4 years was too little. He could have died of starvation. He knew he could do something. And he can't live without eating. Now he seems to be planning here. He has some potatoes that he wants to use to grow more potatoes, and for that all the scientists would have been doing some experiments on this soil in the beginning. So, Mark starts making some notes in his diary and goes out and digs up the soil and collects it in one place so that he can grow potatoes. The lack of water was the biggest problem. There was only water that the scientists had brought with them. Water was not enough, but luckily Mark, who was a botanist, knew how to make water. How can this whole process be done, i.e., the process of growing potatoes? He knows. Then he wants to produce water by burning oxygen and hydrogen. But in the first attempt, there is a big explosion, because here he ignored the oxygen which the Mark was using as breathing from there. But in the next attempt, he was very careful to produce water. Now he lets water form at the place where he planted the seed in the soil. Then we see that after a few days the small plant little bit comes out of the ground, which makes Mark very happy, and he is convinced that her food will be arranged. On the other hand, we see on Earth that it is rumored in the world that Mark is dead. Everyone becomes sad after hearing the news of Mark's death. After this, then we see a girl who sees a satellite image of Mars. She realizes that Mark alive because the equipment that used to be lying somewhere else is now lying somewhere else. Then she believes that Mark is alive. In fact, it is solar panels. Mark was moving it. She tells her supervisor that Mark is alive. Definitely, they believe that Mark is alive, but they tell him that even if we reach to save Mark, the sooner we get there, the sooner he will starve to death, because Earth and Mars are so far apart from each other. But on Mars, Mark, instead of worrying, he is looking for ways to get to the next project, which will arrive on Mars 4 years later, and where it will take 50 days to get to where it is. Mark has a car, owns, runs on solar panels, travels up to 35 kilometers in a day, and can't go any further. But Mark still has only one way, so he starts his journey. On Earth, we see a spaceship be built to send food and water to Mark, which will reach Mark in a whole year. Mark has grown potatoes on Mars so far. Those potatoes were too much, luckily, but Mark was worried about how long he would live on the potatoes. Mark arrives at the place where the camera is. It is a camera that sends pictures of Mars to the world. He has placed 3 boards in front of the camera. In the middle board he writes, "Can you see me?" Left board he writes, "No," and the right side he writes, "Yes," and when the people of the world see this, they point to yes. So, Mark is so happy they find out that I am alive now. He starts talking to the people of the world. On the signboard, with the help of code word. Here Mark is also told that food and water are being sent for him. So, Mark asks if the scientists with whom he came here are still going to Earth. "So did you tell them that I am still alive?" They respond to Mark Not yet, but tell them soon. When Mark's other colleagues find out that Mark is alive, they get upset because leave Mark there. On Mars, we see that where Mark has grown potatoes, don't know why all of a sudden there is an explosion there, and all the potatoes he grows will be destroyed. Mark becomes sad. The potatoes he has now are not enough because, by the time food or water reached him, he would have died of hunger. So now he decides that the food he used to eat 3 times a day, now he has to eat less of that food, so that the same food can last for more days, and he can survive. Now on the Earth, we see NASA. NASA is to send a rocket to Mars which has food, water, and necessary things for Mark, but unfortunately, it is destroyed very soon after the rocket takes off, and all the food is also destroyed, and now Mark nothing could be reached on Mars. On the other hand, Mark on Mars also finds out that he becomes disappointed. Then he gives a message to NASA that he is not one of the losers, and he will fight till his last breath. If possible, tell my parents that their son was very brave and very serious about his profession. However, he is very happy that he fought to the last breath, and he is dying with pride. NASA asks for help from China, so China agrees to help them. That their spaceship, which is due to depart 28 days later, by using this spaceship they can save Mark. But there's a man giving a new suggestion that the spaceship that is already returning from Mars should be sent back to Mars, and Mark should take the spaceship on Mars. And Mark will come to the orbit of Mars using the spaceship that is already on Mars. When Mark comes to Mars orbit, the rest of the scientists will take it there, but it was very difficult, and it was a threat to the lives of the rest of the scientists, and it could have taken them 19 months to do so. So this reason they rejected the advice of him. Here we see Mark who is busy on Mars and has not given up yet. Now the team of Mark going back to Mars, so NASA is pretty surprised that we didn't order this work, then why they go back. In fact, the guy who suggested the suggestion had asked the 5 scientists to save him, because he was a member of your team. NASA gets very angry, but China explains to him that this is a good thing. Mark is on one side who is not giving up, and these scientists are also going to save his life by putting their life in trouble. So who are we to say? And so NASA China's with their help, they are able to deliver food and succeed. When Mark finds out that they are coming to take him with, but their spaceship does not have enough fuel to land his ship on Mars, he will have to build his own spaceship and go to orbit, so Mark builds a spaceship. But it is so heavy that Mark will not be able to ascend so fast, unless he removes some of the heavier parts. Finally, the time when the Mark has to fly in his spaceship. Even though the spaceship is going up in the opposite direction from the ground, so Mark has a hard time. Mark goes unconscious, and because of this he has no contact. Everyone gets very upset, but when Mark comes back to his senses, everyone is very happy. Many on Earth were connected to the mission and prayed for the safety of Mark and his team. But now the problem is that Mark can't control the speed of the spaceship he's in. So now he is worried about how his companions will catch him, so he tells his companions not to worry. And soon I will be able to reach you by controlling the speed of the spaceship. Now other scientists drop a portion of their spaceship whose air pressure reduces the speed of Mark's spaceship, so that eventually they could be captured Mark in this way. Here on the other side, we see the female commander of the ship approaching Mark with the help of a rope from a moving chair. But the rope goes too short one here. Here Mark is far away from them, so he makes a hole in his spacesuit. Due to the hole, the air in the spacesuit, the air pressure is very high. This pressure causes Mark to move upwards towards the spaceship. When Mark reaches the commander, then due to excessive pressure, his hand slips from the commander's hand, but throws the rope towards the Mark, which Mark is captured, and eventually, they both arrive in the spaceship. Then everyone is very happy that their mission is successful. Now we see that they've all finally landed, and here Mark is lecturing scientists, teaching them how to survive if we get stuck in space and never give up, and that's it.